Good morning and welcome. Friday, July 9th. Happy to be with you. This morning when I came into the studio to set up, there was a huge dragonfly in here. Really enormous, making a lot of noise because he was really panicked trying to find the way out. And I opened all the windows and he finally found his way out. And then I left one window open just for air and he came back in again. But this time, he found the way out much quicker. So, interesting, here in New York City, this kind of thing can happen. So take a moment now to adjust your posture, widen your sitting bones, and allow your pelvis and your legs to really feel supported and grounded into the surface that you're sitting on. And then allow your spine and actually, create a lift through your spine all the way up to the top of your head. So in this way, we embody the earth and the sky. So at this time of year, even though we're having a lot of rain here in New York, I still feel that earth and sky energy very clearly at this time of year. Plus, I was out in the country over the weekend, so I had a reminder of the earth, walking around the place where I grew up. So connect into the earth through your lower body and connect with the sky through your upper body, which is somewhat of a simplistic division, but it works in the body this way, and it works in the yoga poses to keep our joints spacious and to be expansive and yet very stable. So with that image, take a few breaths, feeling the expansiveness inside, that expansiveness of the sky inside. Okay, now we'll chant the invocation, which is Om Sahana Bhavatu, the invocation to teachers and students being unified in our purpose. It's also called the peace mantras, the Shanti mantras, because it ends with Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we'll do it 3 times through with that Om Shanti only at the end. And we'll start with a single Om. So take a deep breath. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahe, Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu, Ma Vivishavavahe. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahe, Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu, Ma Vivishavavahe. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahe, Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu, Ma Vivishavavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So just keep your eyes closed and breathe a few more times with the image of that chant in your mind and your body. The chant says, may we teachers and students be protected together. May we enjoy the fruits of our actions together. May we achieve strength together. May our learning be luminous and purposeful. May we never have enmity for one another. And may there be peace, peace, peace. Okay, so come back, open your eyes, and let's do some shoulder circles. And then with your chest expanded and lifted, turn your head left and right. And then reach your right hand out and touch the mat next to you. Take your head towards your left shoulder, looking straight ahead at first to stretch the side of the neck down into the shoulder a little bit. And take some breath as you reach in both directions, out through the top of your head and down into the floor through your fingertips. And then look down. And then look up. And back to center, circle your shoulders a couple of times. And then take your left hand out to the side, touch the mat, and take your head to your right shoulder. Pulling in both directions, out through the top of your head and over, down into the floor through your fingers. And you're looking straight ahead at first because there's a muscle that's in three parts. So we do the middle part first. And then we look down to get the back part. And then we look up to get the front part. And back to center, circle your shoulders again. And now let's do the curving and arching. So you can change the crossing of your legs if you want. You can even widen your knees apart a little more. Lift your chest as you lean back and stay there for a full cycle of breath. And then come forward, rounding your back as you bring your head and chest towards the floor. And then go back and forth at your own pace between those two, opening the front of the spine and the back of the spine. Thinking of that expansive spaciousness inside your chest. The sky. All right, back up to center. Inhale to elongate upward, exhale, twist, and pull your left thigh into the hip socket to stabilize your pelvis as you turn to the right, keeping your head right up over your pelvic floor. Back to center, inhale, exhale, turn. And back to center, and do that a few more times at your own pace. Okay, back to center, and now let's do the balls. We're going to do the lower back first, and then go over onto our side to do the iliotibial band and the side of the pelvis. So at first you're lying on your back with the small hard balls, the baseballs, and then you'll use the hollow fist size after that. So let's start just below the shoulder blades. Lying on your back, place the balls on either side of the spine. And spread your arms to the sides and just relax with a couple of deep breaths. And then slowly move your ribs and spine to each side, very slowly. Moving as an exploration to really see what's going on in there. How does it feel? Where are the tight spots? But also what feels really good. So we're not always looking for the difficulties. We're also looking to enjoy when the body feels alive and resilient and able to adapt easily to the shape of the ball. Okay, back to center, move down to the next spot. And take a deep breath just to settle into the new spot each time. And then slowly side to side movement.
So we're getting into the back muscles, but also into the beginning of the psoas, which you may feel when, down in these next few spots. It's attaching to the side of the spine, deep in the middle of the body. And then going down across your hips. So progress backwards with your body so the balls go a little bit lower now. And take a few breaths to settle into the spot. And then move side to side, really slowly, just a little bit of movement, not much. You're working on the muscles right near the spine. There's many layers. All right, and again down. So now I'm at my waist, or just slightly above my waist, which for most of us is a pretty important place to work. And you go side to side. And then move down again. So we have two more spots, this one and one more before we get to the pelvis. Just slowly move side to side. Your pelvis will be moving quite a bit as well. Moving to the opposite side from where your waistline is going. So waist goes to the right, hips go to the left, etc., like that. And then move down one more spot before we get to the pelvis. So you're at the very lowest part of your back before the pelvis, and you can maybe feel the edge of the bones there. And at this spot, I like to actually roll over onto one side to get a little more deeply into that area because the fascia is quite thick here. So it's kind of interesting to roll over on one side. So I turn my legs and my pelvis. So all the weight is on one ball, there's no weight on the other ball. And then you can do the other side. So if you have more tension on one side, which I know at least one of you does, and I do as well, this is a helpful way to just target the tightest place. Okay, now take the balls in your hands, move them down onto the buttocks, and you can choose wherever you want to put them. There's a lot of good spots. You can either leave your feet on the floor or lift your knees up towards your chest. And then do any kind of movement with your hips and legs that changes the angle of pressure of the balls into your buttocks. And anytime you can move the balls with your hands to a different spot. You can explore, the outer part, the lower part, wherever you want. All right, let's take the balls out and just lie flat for a moment to feel the result.
And then let's change now to work on the ITB. So we're gonna set up some support for your shoulders and your head. So you'll need a folded blanket that is underneath your ribs. And then there's a space for your shoulder. And then there's another folded blanket or pillow for your head. So depending on your shape and size, you can decide how high these props are. I have fairly broad shoulders, so I like to have a good amount of support for my head, and then my shoulder isn't squashed. So the shoulder goes between the two pads, and then the balls go, I'm using two at once, but you can choose to use one at a time if you want. I'm gonna put one of the balls up on the side of the pelvis, above the greater trochanter bone. There's a prominent bone there, you don't wanna put the ball right on that. So one of them is above that, on the side of the hips, and the other is down somewhere on the thigh. You can choose. And then you can choose where to put your other leg. You can have it stacked on top for a little more pressure, or you can lift the knee to face upward and the foot flat on the floor. And then you begin to move your hips and leg however you want that changes the position of the ball. So you can do a forward and back movement. That's one option. You can also do a diagonal reach through that leg. So I'm kind of extending my knee away from the hip, which goes along with the forward and back of the pelvis. So just experiment and you'll find some kind of movement that moves the ball along or across the iliotibial band. So what we want is for the iliotibial band to have freedom to shift and move over the muscles that are under it. It's a fascial structure, it's not a muscle. And it's very close to the hamstring and the quadriceps, those muscles that are, very strong in your thighs. And they sometimes get glued together. So one of the things we're doing here is giving them some separation, which removes restriction in the hips and the lower back really well. So anytime you can move the position of the ball that's under your iliotibial band, under your thigh, and you can leave the other one where it is because there's really only one spot there on the side of the pelvis. But you can experiment with the other ball being higher up toward your hip or lower down toward your knee. See what happens in the different places. All right, and now let's change sides, but in between, lie on your back to feel the result. And then you can turn over and place the ball, the one ball under the side of your hip, the other ball under the side of your thigh, and begin to work on this second side. So always with the ball work, we stay quiet for just a couple of breaths when we first place the balls, so that we have time to really perceive what's happening. And then when you start moving, make sure that the movement is quite slow, so that you'll have time to notice what sensations are there, where it feels like the tightness is located. And when you're moving very slowly over whatever part it is. Like I'm moving over an area of my thigh that's about 2 inches square. It's very small. And anytime you want, you can move the ball that's under your thigh to catch different parts of the iliotibial band. It's a long structure, fascial structure that goes down from the waistline all the way to below your knee.
And its purpose is to stabilize when we're in a standing posture across the hip and the knee joints. But in doing so, if it's tight, it can be part of a syndrome of lower back pain for sure, and definitely hip or knee pain. So anytime you want, change the position of the ball that's under your thigh. And you're doing whatever small, slow movements, change the position of the ball and pull on that tissue. Pull on the fascial tissue that's right underneath the skin. And then take note of the difference, if there's a difference between this side and the other side. So most of us have a lot of asymmetry in the body somewhere. And if your hips are a little asymmetrical, then the iliotibial band is going to be responding to that by thickening on one side more than the other. Okay, just do another minute or so. So if you want to try a different spot with the ball that's on your thigh, you can do that. And now let's take the balls out and lie flat on your back. We'll be getting ready for the floor warm-ups now. Bring your knees up to your chest. Separate the knees a little bit, holding on with each hand, and just rock side to side. And then bring your legs up in the air and circle your feet. And bend and stretch your legs. Pointing your toes one time and extending your heels another time. And then with your legs up in the air, lift your hips off the floor for a little strengthener for the lower abdomen, the pop-ups. And you can do it at a moderate pace, not too slow, not too fast, using the lower stomach muscles to lift yourself up. Try to keep your neck and shoulders relaxed, if you can. And you can use a little bit of momentum, but mostly it's the strength of those lower abdomen muscles. And then put a block between your knees. Arms stretched to the side, shoulders pressing down, and move your legs side to side. So of course now you're using the diagonal muscles of the stomach area, the obliques. Okay, back to center. And windshield wiper. Place your feet wide on the mat, arms next to your head. Bring the right knee down and across, but don't let the left knee drop down. Keep it pointing straight up. And then stretch really strongly from your hip down through the knee and from your waist up through your hand. So long side body stretch. Come back to center, second side. Left knee goes across towards your right foot, but you keep the right knee pointing up. That's one of the reasons we have to widen the legs so much, to make room for that. And then reach with both your knee and your hand away from center. Take some deep breath, because it's a really nice stretch for the lungs and the ribs. And then each side again. And if you like, you can grasp the wrist with the other hand, and you can put the heel of your left foot now onto your right knee to push it down a little more. That's an optional addition. And then back to the second side, same thing. And back up. And now bring your feet hip width apart in parallel for the bridge. Arms alongside your body, palms facing up. Feel the four corners of your feet, and you're going to press down a little extra with the inner corners to prevent your knees from widening and to activate the inner muscles of your thighs on the medial side. So now press down with your feet to lift your hips, tuck your shoulders under. You can clasp your hands if you want. Lift your hips as high as you can and lift your chest as high as you can. So you have a nice tall bridge over the water. Press down into the earth. Lift up toward the sky. And back to center. So it's interesting, I do that pose every day, and I teach it in every class. But sometimes something new happens. Like just then, I felt a new kind of stretch in my neck. So that's a good thing to remember for those of us who practiced yoga regularly for a long time. You always want to be watching for some new thing that might happen. You never know. Okay, so now the leg stretches. Put the belt around your right foot. Hold the belt so that your arms are straight, shoulders on the floor, and if possible, the other leg is straight and presses into the floor. And then push with your right thigh away from your head and shoulders while the belt is pulling your foot towards your head and shoulders. And then breathe smoothly, steadily. Keeping your shoulders down, roll your head from side to side anytime to make sure that you're not tensing your neck. And then lift the left leg off the floor for a couple of breaths. You can move it around as it's in the air. You don't have to keep it steady and straight. And then put it down and go out to the right with your right leg, stretching strongly through both heels. Roll your head side to side again. And then come back to center and go across the midline, widening through your pelvis, stretching through the whole foot on each leg, so the four corners of the foot. And then lift your left leg off the floor for a couple breaths. And come down, and then with a bent knee, go across the midline, shifting your hips back a little bit behind you so that you have a straight line from your foot to your hips to your head. And then make a stretch that goes from your right knee diagonally over back to the right hand across your torso, stretching your ribs in this twisting way, and then back to center. So do a little wiggle on the floor, feel the right side of your body that just got a lot of stimulus. And let's do the left side. Leg comes up, and if possible, the other leg is straight on the floor, pressing down. And then you consciously activate the muscles of your legs so that the knee stays straight. The left thigh presses forward, right thigh presses down, and then you pull any amount with the belt. You can choose how much to do that pull. Roll your head side to side. And lift the right leg off the floor a couple of inches, hold it there, and you can move it around however you want while it's in the air. And then put it down, go back, go out to the side with your left leg, holding with the left hand on the belt. The right hand can stretch out to the side. Keep your right hip on the floor and roll your head side to side. And then come back and cross over the midline with your left leg, widening through the pelvis. Keep both legs strongly straight, the four corners of the feet reaching, and then roll your head again. And lift the right leg off the floor. And put it down and bend the knee across further. And shift your hips back a couple of inches behind you as you go into this twist, so that you have a straight line from your foot to your hips to your head. And then gently pull the left knee across with your right hand as you reach out with the left hand behind you. Again, with the breath, make spacious expansiveness in your torso. Okay, back to center and spend a breath or two just feeling everything. And then you can roll over onto your stomach and get ready for the forearm plank pose. Clasp your hands, separate your elbows so they're under your shoulders, and tuck your toes under on the back of the mat. And then pull your chest forward as you look forward. So you're using your arms, which are pressing down into the mat and actually pulling back a little bit to elongate the front of the spine. And then when you lift your knees off the floor, you're getting a very mild back bend all the way down your front body. Okay, and now look down at your hands and lift your hips off the floor so you're in forearm plank. Take care that your rib cage doesn't go up too high. Keep it as much as possible level with your shoulders. Don't let your hips drag down to the floor. Keep them lifted. And your breath is steady. Neck is long. And then come down and point your fingers straight ahead. Elbows are still under your shoulders, shoulder width apart. Stretch your legs back, pointing your toes, and activate your buttocks, your gluteal muscles just a bit so they lengthen and firmly press down. And then lift up your elbows so you're in a cobra pose with your arms extended forward. And I like this variation of cobra to feel the length of the front body. So you really have room to pull your chest forward. You can rock a little bit side to side. And then come down all the way to the floor with your head to one side and breathe. Let's come up now with the hands a little further back. So move your hands back next to your head and widen them slightly. Pull your shoulder blades together and lift up into Cobra number 2. Again, with the focus on expanding the front chest forward and also from side to side. So it's really spacious inside your upper body. The legs and hips are pressing into the earth. And come down, put your head to the other side. And now one more Cobra. You can put your hands in any of those positions or even further back if you want. Shoulder blades engaged, lift up. And this time, raise your gaze up, your face looks up. And maybe there's more stretch between the whole line of your front body from your chin to your pelvis. And then come back down and come into child's pose with your knees quite wide apart and your toes touching and your head supported by something. It could be a block or a pillow or your hands. And gently move your hips from side to side. So it'll give a different kind of stretch into the hips. Very gentle side to side shift. All right, and then come up and prepare for the lunges and the downward dog. So let's do downward dog first. Hands shoulder width apart, slightly turned out. Take time to walk your knees back a little bit and stretch your spine long. And then tuck your toes under. Inhaling, lift your knees. Exhaling. The first action is pulling your hips up and back. Look back at your ankles and stabilize your ankles, but also widen your thighs. So the ankles
tend to drop off to the sides for most people. So keep them aligned with your toes and widen from the knees up to the hips. And then stretch one leg at a time. And both legs together. And come forward to full arm plank. And walk in place, lift one leg up at a time. Just a few inches off the floor. Back to down dog. And then step your right foot forward and bring the blocks in under your hands. The back leg is long and strong. The front leg is bent to 90 degrees. Look forward, expand your chest. And then straighten the right leg and put the left heel down. Bring the blocks on the inside of the front foot, or you can have one on each side, and swivel. Heel swivel for the hamstring stretch. So you're turning your pelvis in a half circle, pivoting on the heel, and hopefully contacting all the different parts of the hamstrings. And then come back to face straight ahead, put the back knee down on the mat, and then keeping your left hand on the mat or the block, twist to catch your foot with the right hand behind you and pull the foot in. Okay, let's do those two things on the other leg. So step the left foot forward, right foot back, basic lunge, actually 3 things. So make sure in the lunge that your back foot is far enough back that you can get your hips about to the level of the front knee and they're squarely facing forward to the end of the mat. So that's the architecture that we have as we align the body. In general, the hips are facing the same way as the feet. That's true for most poses. Okay, and then bring the back heel down, come up onto the front heel and move the blocks so that you can have the support of the blocks as you swivel your pelvis. The heel stays on the floor, toes are off the floor, pull your hips toward the back foot and slowly rotate your hips, feeling the different parts of the hamstrings. And back to center. And now put the back knee down. Right hand goes on the floor next to your left foot, or it could be on the block. Reach around with your left hand to catch the right foot in a twist and a thigh stretch. Couple of cycles of breath. And then back to down dog. Okay, bring the right leg forward and bring your hands up to the front knee and check that you've got your hips facing forward and the back foot is wide enough to help you balance. And then bring your torso straight up and stretch your arms to the sides. So this is an earth and sky opportunity. Connect to the earth through your legs, connect to the sky through your upper body. And if you want, you can bring your arms up around your head and look up. The back heel is off the floor, the pelvis is facing straight ahead. Okay, let's do that on the other side. Step the left foot forward, right foot back. Hands come to the front knee. Make sure the pelvis is facing straight ahead. And you have the width that you need to balance between your 2 feet. And then bring your hands out to the side, arms stretching to the sides. Stay connected to the earth through your legs. Expand up into the sky. Couple of cycles of breath. You can look up if you want. You can raise your arms to be next to your head if you want. Okay, back to down dog.
And then step towards your feet, step your feet towards your hands and hang in Uttanasana, or bring the blocks under your hands and do a half Uttanasana with your spine extended. You can choose the full pose or the pose in which you're extending your spine. And then bring your hands to your hips, bend your knees, and push down into the earth as you lift up. Okay, let's do a couple poses with the wall. Let's do a pectoral stretch first. Put your right hand on the wall with the fingers pointing backwards. Lift your front chest and turn away from the wall, tilting your head towards your left shoulder. Make sure the biceps muscle on your arm is facing upward. And just hopefully feel the stretch that goes from your chest in the front all the way down your arm, possibly to your fingers, but maybe to your elbow. Okay, other side. Fingers pointing backwards, elbow is straight, chest is lifted, and then turn your feet away from the wall just a little bit until you feel the stretch down your arm and also into the side of your chest. Take your head to the other shoulder. Okay, release. Now let's do Utkatasana. Again, with the hips against the wall, adding a twist to it. So bring your hips to the wall, feet are about maybe 12 to 16 inches away from the wall. And you start out just leaning against the wall, feels kind of nice. And then feet are at least hip width apart, probably a little wider would be good too. And then bend your knees and fold your forearms across both knees. So you've got an elbow on each knee and the hand crosses over to the opposite knee. And do that strong widening action through your thighs as you extend your spine forward. And then keep your sitting bones equally connected to the wall now as we twist. So you're going to release your right hand, twist to the right, and keep both sitting bones on the wall. Use your right hand to push the top of your right thigh down. All right, back to center, both arms on the knees again. Take a little rest here. And then release the left hand, turn to the left, but keep both sitting bones against the wall. Don't let one of them come off. Twist to the left and use your left hand to press into the left thigh, right at the top near the hip joint. Okay, back up to center. Now let's do tree pose while we're here at the wall. So standing on your left leg, raise your right leg up so that the foot comes against the inner thigh. Find a focus point across the room for your gaze. Find the four corners of the standing foot and touch the wall to whatever degree you need to or want to. So feeling steady is a good thing. So the tree has roots into the floor, into the ground, into the earth, and then the trunk and the branches rise up to expand into the sky. So you can choose your arm position. My favorite is an upward diagonal arms. It feels like tree branches to me. Breathe smoothly, steadily. Even though your body is probably fluctuating, it's totally normal. All right, and come down. Second side. Bring the left foot up onto the right leg. And find the four corners of that foot. Tailbone lightly rooting downward, abdomen lifting up. And your gaze is steady across the room.
And then see where you want to put your arms. You can have them, you can join your hands in front of your heart if you like that, or you can take them straight out to the side, touching the wall, or you can raise them up a little higher, or you can do the classic pose where your arms are all the way up. You can choose. Okay, come on down. And now let's do leaning goddess pose, which I think of as a very earthly pose. So widen your stance, turn the feet out a little bit. Lift your chest, bend at the hips and the knees to come forward slightly. And the reason we lean forward is that it's much safer for the knees. There's much more chance that you'll keep your knees well aligned if your upper body is forward than if your upper body would be upright. Use your hands to push the knees wider. Pull your pelvis, the pelvic floor pulls back, but also lifts up. So the pelvis is reaching back, but inside the muscles of the pelvis are lifting up. And then let go with your arms and breathe. Stretching your arms expansively to the sides, like you're really reaching out into the sky from one continent to another, across the expanse of the sky. And come on up. And now get ready for Warrior Two and Parsvakonasana. So if you like to use a block for Parsvakonasana, you can get it ready on each side of the mat. Turn the right leg out, left leg parallel. So in this case, the pelvis is slightly turned toward the left, but from the waist up, you're facing forward. Inhale, raise your arms, palms down. Exhale, bend the right knee. Bring it right over the ankle and rise up through your torso. So if you could see yourself in a mirror, maybe you can. I can see myself in the screen. You want your torso to be right up over your pelvis, not leaning more towards your right leg. So reach out through your left arm, even as you're looking to the right. Four corners of the feet are supporting you. Pelvic floor is lifting. And now bring your right forearm to your thigh and use your forearm to open the thigh out a little more. So push it back behind you. Roll the left shoulder back. And then bring your hand down to the floor or your ankle or the block. Pause there and recharge the strength of your legs. And then bring your right arm up and over your ear. Very vigorous pose. And you can choose to use a higher support for your hand. You know, use even 2 blocks if you want to, so that you can really be steady here. Okay, and come up. Get ready for the second side. Turn the left leg out. Right leg parallel from the waist down. Your hips are slightly turned to the left. From the waist up, you're facing straight ahead. So there's a very slight twist that happens right around the waist. Arms come up, palms facing down. Inhale and exhale into a bent knee on the left side, bringing the knee over the ankle. And if your knee goes beyond your ankle, you need a wider stance. And I'm trusting you to figure that out. And then your torso comes straight up out of the pelvis, reaching out through your right arm to avoid shifting too much to the left. Then turn your head to the left. Very wide pose. So the scriptural story that goes with this is that the warrior has risen up out of the earth and is flying to the place where the battle is. That's what this pose depicts. So it's very much along with our theme of earth and sky. And then bring your forearm to your thigh. Roll your right shoulder back. Push with your arm so that the left knee widens a little more. And then bring your hand to the block or your ankle or the floor. And bring your arm up and then over your ear. Long diagonal. Remember the 4 corners of the feet. Strength of your pelvic floor. And of course, always your breath. All right, and then come to the center with your feet parallel. So you're doing Prasarita Padottanasana. Bring the blocks under your hands. Really widen and pull back through your hips. And then you can release down either just a little bit or more, depending on your safety needs for your spine. Possibly stack the blocks to put your head on them. All right, and then extend your arms so your torso begins to lift up. Heel toe to walk your feet closer together, and inhale, come up. Now, we're going to do another pair of standing poses using the chair. Face the chair, the seat of the chair away from you on the end of the mat. So we're going to do warrior 1 and 3. And those of you who would rather do it without the chair, of course, you're welcome to do that. So I'm going to describe it with a chair, but if you know the poses well, you just do it without it. The right foot goes forward under the chair, the left foot steps back. The left leg is very slightly turned out so that you can still face your pelvis toward the chair. And then bend the front knee to come over the ankle and begin to press down into the chair back with your hands so that you can lift your chest. And then you can let go with one hand or both. And as we did before, raise up through your chest and your gaze, possibly bringing your arms up next to your head. Warrior 1. So this is the pose in which the warrior is coming up out of the surface of the earth. So there's a really strong magnetism into the earth with your legs, and a really strong lift, aspiring to fly. Okay, and then look down, touch the chair. Move your foot back if you're using a chair. You don't have to do that if you're not. And then come over the chair with your hands to touch the seat of the chair as you lift your back leg up. And stay there for a couple of breaths. This is warrior 3, where the warrior is flying through the air. And then raise your right arm and stretch it forward. Very strengthening pose, promoting balance, steadiness. Okay, and come down onto 2 feet and just pause and breathe. And let's do those 2 poses on the left. So left leg forward, right leg back, slightly turned out with your right leg so that you can still face your pelvis towards the chair, towards the front of your mat. Bend the front knee, stretch into the back leg as best as you can. If necessary, you can bend the back knee, but you try to keep it straight because it's such a nice stretch across the hips. You also take care to keep the left knee over the ankle pointing toward the toes. It's going to tend to turn in, so try to watch that and keep it pointing straight ahead. And then drawing your tailbone down and your abdomen up, create a back bend, raise one or both arms to the sides, and you can stay there, or you can raise the arms further and look up. Okay, and then look forward, touch the back of the chair and step back a little bit with your left foot so that you'll be able to reach over the back of the chair, put your hands on the seat and lift your right leg up behind you. So this way with the chair, you see it's very possible and maybe even probable that you can get your pelvis to face the floor, which is the way it's supposed to be in this pose. And then lift your left arm out forward to balance on your left foot and right arm. Strong core, steady breath. And then both feet down, bend your knees and stand. All right, let's bring the chair back onto the mat further and do Ustrasana. And again, you can do this pose without the chair. You can just have your hands go to your heels, but I'm going to demonstrate it with the hands going onto the chair. So, come down onto your knees, facing away from the chair. Feet and knees the same distance apart. So when I put my ankles and feet under the chair, I can really feel my shins touching the inside of the chair legs. This is Ustrasana, camel pose. Root down through your legs and lift the spine up and out. Do a little practice. We're not going to go into the pose right away. We're just going to do this little mini version, pulling your shoulder blades together, lifting your chest, and tipping your head slightly upward. So you're still really fully on your knees. Your weight is all on the knees. Push your feet down, though, to be able to use that earth energy to lift up more through the spine. And then come back up. So that was no-handed camel pose. Now we'll do it with the hands coming to some part of the chair. And if you want, they come all the way to your heels. Once again, steady, earthy through the legs. Lift your spine, shoulder blades pulling together. Tone the front of your neck by pulling your chin back a little bit. And then carefully tilt your head back without dropping the weight of the head completely. And bring your hands either to your heels or to some part of the chair so that you can move your hips more forward and your chest more up. And then come up. And let's do twisted child's pose as a follow-up. So come onto hands and knees. Move your left hand forward, your right arm goes behind your left hand, stretching off to the side, and the right side of your head goes to the floor. Keep your hips from turning or shifting. Keep them right over the knees. And use your arms to twist more. So the straight arm presses down, and the bent arm pulls back. And breathe. And then the other side. Right hand goes forward a little bit on the mat, left arm comes behind, extending sideways with the palm facing up when you get the side of your head onto the floor. Keep your pelvis steady, widening your hips and aligning the hips right over the knees, and increase the twist by pushing down with the straight arm and pulling back with the bent arm. All right. Now we'll do Janu Shirshasana using the chair. Again, it's optional. If you'd rather not use it, that's fine. So for most of us, it's helpful to bring a blanket or a pillow in to raise your hips up a little bit. And then if you have any knee pain, you want to have an extra blanket handy in case the sore knee needs a little extra support. So sit on the blanket or the pillow and stretch your legs straight ahead, bringing your feet under the chair and then pulling the chair towards you. So for me, I can get my feet against the back rung of the chair and still touch the chair seat, but that's going to be different for depending on your size. You can pull the chair more towards you and get your feet to go all the way under. That's fine too. So here we are in Dandasana. Both legs are straight, your spine is lifting, and your thighs are pressing down. Earth and sky, thighs down into the earth, spine up to the sky. And then bring your left knee out to the side and put the sole of the foot against the right leg, and add any prop that you might need under the knee. And then take your hands and broaden your buttocks. Then put your hands on the chair seat, lift your spine, and just a little bit turn your navel to the right. so that it faces the straight leg. And then start to come forward, moving your arms to a place where the chair helps you go forward without going down very much. So the advantage of using the chair is that you can keep your spine lifted, and even though it's rounding a little bit, it's not collapsing. Keep pressing the right thigh down and widening your two thighs out to the side internally. Ideally, you can rest your head, but that may be different for each of us. And that way you can breathe a little more quietly and have a sense of resting your back. But if that's not the case, then you have to use a little effort to keep your head going forward and up, not forward and down. All right, let's do the other side. Come back up, and let's spend a little time in Dandasana again between sides. So both your legs are straight, your spine is straight, pushing your hands down into the chair seat. Or if you don't want to use the chair, you can have your hands by your sides and press down that way. And then bring the right leg out to the side so the sole of the foot comes up onto the inner thigh. And add a prop under the bent knee if that's good for you. Turn towards your straight leg just a little bit with your navel, but still be actively pressing into the floor with the right leg. And then move forward gradually. As you press the left thigh down, you move forward but not collapsing downward, more reaching up and out. So again, the earth and sky image will help you here. Stay grounded with your leg, but the upper body doesn't go to the earth. It goes up into the sky as it goes forward. If you can rest your head, it's very nice because you can breathe more easily. Keep a steady breath and keep pressing your left thigh down. All right, come on up. And we're going to do a restorative pose using blocks, 2 blocks in 1 blanket, and then shavasana. So we'll put the chair aside. Maybe you'll want it for shavasana. Your 2 blocks are going to be in the shape of the letter T. So one of them is wide, the other is long. I'm holding these up in case you're wanting to look. And then when you put it on the floor, the wide one that goes from left to right on your mat is where your hips are going to be. And the long one is where your lower and middle back are going to be. And you cover them with a blanket so that it's softer. And then come to be sitting on the wide block. Your knees stay bent in this pose. And you drape yourself back over the blocks so that the top of the vertical block is coming to a place in your spine where you're able to allow some back bending, where the pressure from the block is not too painful, but it's opening your body in this back bending shape. So you can choose, you can go more, have the edge of the block higher near your shoulder blades, or you can have it more sort of halfway to your waist. So you have some choice there. And then arms are to the sides. And settle into the pose with some nice deep breaths.
With each exhalation, release into the earth. With each inhalation, bring the energy of the sky into your body. So we're going to stay in this pose a little longer. You might want to change, very slightly change the position of where your back is relative to the edge of the block so that you get a slightly different stretch from the back to the front of your spine. All right, so now roll softly off to one side, coming away from the blocks. And then come up to sitting to rearrange for shavasana. You can take your choice of your variation of shavasana. Do your favorite one. My current favorite is having this sort of mini bolster that I created out of a folded blanket. And I put that on the mat lengthwise, which will support my spine. And then I bring the chair in. So that I can be able to put my legs up on the chair. My hips are off the blanket, they're on the mat. My legs go up on the chair, and I just lie back. I find this very comfortable. Gives me a little bit of lower back arch, and that nice feeling of having the legs up, so that the weight of the thighs drop into the hip joints. And the blanket gives me a nice open front body so that I can really breathe. So let's do Viloma breath here while we're resting in Shavasana for some of the time, and then we'll go back to normal breath at the end. So Viloma breath is where you take a slow inhalation and divide the inhalation into three parts, the lower, the middle, and the upper. So you can visualize your lungs filling the bottom part first, and then the middle part, and then the top part, with a little pause in between. So take a full inhale and exhale. And then at the bottom of the exhale, with your mouth closed, breathing through the nose, fill the bottom third of your lungs and pause. And then feel the middle third and pause. And then feel the top third and pause. And exhale all the way out. Take a normal breath in between. And I want to remind you that when you fill each third, you're filling three-dimensionally, sides, front, and back. So remember the back part of the lungs as well. So once again, at the end of an exhalation, you're ready to go. Breathe in 1/3 to the bottom of the lungs. Another third to the middle of the lungs. Pause. And then the top third, fill the top and pause. And exhale slowly all the way out. And let's do that a few more times. Take a full breath in and out. And then begin. Breathing through your nose, fill the bottom third of the lungs and pause. And then the middle third and pause. And then the top third and pause. Feel the front and back equally if you can. And then all the way out. And a couple of normal breaths before we do one more round. Okay, getting ready now. Take a big inhale and exhale. And then inhale 1/3 through your nose and pause. Inhale the second third, the middle part, and pause. And then inhale the top and pause. And exhale all the way out. And now just go back to normal breath. Let it be whatever it is and enjoy it. Take some nice deep breaths now and move however you'd like to. Roll to one side and bend your knees up towards your chest. And come all the way up to sitting. So I invite you to keep that image of the earth and sky with you for the rest of the day today. See how you feel it in your body. See how you observe it in the world around you. And reflect.
on the power of nature, the sustenance from the earth and the expansiveness of the sky. We'll chant one Om to finish. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. Take a breath in. Thank you. Namaste.